Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've noticed recently a lot of talk on Facebook about triplets, and a lot of people have been asking what's the value of this stone, or what's the value of this stone in this setting, and a lot of the time it does come down to just being a triplet, and then people get a little bit disappointed because they get the jewelry either thinking that they've purchased a solid opal or that they've been handed down a really rare precious solid opal from their ancestors or a friend or something like that. So I just want to address the topic of triplets and basically just walk through what exactly a triplet is, how to identify it, all that kind of stuff. But triplet, as the name suggests, is made out of 3 parts. So you've got this clear section on top, you've got a tiny sliver of opal in there, and then you've got a backing. In this case it looks like it's obsidian, and the top is some sort of quartz or glass. If we just have a quick look at, so here's a little digital micrometer, you're actually looking at the thinnest sliver of opal ever. Like in there we're talking about less than 0.5 millimeter, because this is still overestimating it. So it's a wafer thin piece of opal and it's slammed between the backing and the clear glass on top. To emphasize this point, I've actually got this. So this is a fridge magnet. So this is a fridge magnet that really shows exactly what a triplet is like, but in a magnified version. So you've got this plastic in this case, and a magnetic backing, so that magnetic strip, and then a tiny little printed foily decorative pattern kind of thing. This is just straight off the fridge. I thought it was funny when I was thinking about triplets. So that's literally just the expanded jumbo version, except instead of a thin printed off little foil thing, you've got yourself a sticker in this case. Well, you've got yourself an opal in the case of an actual triplet. So that's pretty much all you need to know about the structure. So the tops can be a lot of different things. They can actually be plastic. So you can get some plastic, you can get quartz, you can get glass, you can get all sorts of stuff. The backing can be heaps of things too. Goes from like black potch, ironstone, so offcuts of boulder like this, you can use that as a backing, nice and flat, nice and smooth, and nice and dark. I've seen people use vinyl records, flatten those out, put them on. The most popular I think are boulder, the ironstone, or probably obsidian, because they're quite hard and it can give the opal the characteristics of those tops and bottoms, so it can become a lot harder. So a lot of triplets get put into a lot of everyday wear kind of opal kind of jewelry, because the front's actually scratch less if you use a really hard glass or quartz or something, which is a lot harder on the scale than what opal is. And opals you'll get scuffs and scratches and chips, but this stuff, it'll just, yeah, it's much more impervious. So now that you know the structure of the triplet a little bit better, well, I've chucked on the macro lens and we're having a really close look. So how can you tell a triplet from a solid opal, or even a doublet? And a lot of it, because it's encased in, like, if it's bezel set, you can't see the sides. The easiest way to tell is just to look at that side and say, oh, look at that, it's got a massive clear top. That's clearly a triplet. You can also look at the joins between each of the layers. They're dead straight, because to set these and glue them in place, the flatter it is, the better. The easier it'll set, and the less chance you'll get of air bubbles and all that kind of garbage. So you can get a nice gemmy looking piece like this. But the other thing you can tell, it's hard to tell like this, but you can see here my fingers, if it's bezel set, you'll actually see the shadow start to delete some of that colour in that top corner. So if I get a nice pointer here, right against this top edge here, you can see when I put my finger in the way of it, you delete all that colour just over there, because the bezel setting will actually mean that shadows cast into the stone, rather than that opal being on the surface. Because even on the side here, you can see that the opal does refract, the light from the opal does refract, and it does show up on the top. So if the walls are hidden, and people take a picture of like a ring or something like this, some people get thrown off because they see the opal at the top and say, oh, that can't be a triplet because the opal colouring is on the surface. When really, I've shown you right here, this is definitely a triplet. That's definitely got the colour projecting to the top. So that's not the best way of doing it at all. You can tell just by looking at the front surface. Can you see how everything feels magnified? It might just be because of experience, but I can clearly tell that this is a triplet just the way that the colour is magnified. It just seems almost artificial. Which is a funny point because you can actually get synthetic opal triplets as well, where that little layer there, just like in that fridge magnet I showed you, is actually a synthetic opal. Or some kind of foil print kind of stuff, which is a little bit less common because it looks so dodgy. But that's another way to tell. You can see that magnification. It doesn't look like it's on the surface. If I just move that around. God, this is a nice triplet though. And personally, I don't like triplets at all, really. I don't mind doublets. I used to not even like doublets, but I see the point for them. The main thing is that this triplet, instead of spending $1,000 a carat on a stone that looks like this, you can get a triplet for 1/10 of that. In fact, this one here is a 2-carat triplet, and I spent, well, I bought 2 of them, so I guess each of these are worth about $15 in the pair. So this one is actually, I bought this pair because this one is a great example of when a triplet is done incredibly well. See, the back is really nice. They've used a nice dark glue behind it. It's UV stabilized glue, so it won't fall apart on you. And the nice contact is there. There's no air bubbles, there's no impurities, there's nothing like that. If I switch over to the other, alright, so this is the other one in the pair. You'll notice just over here, there's that foggy patch. So that's something like an air bubble that just hasn't quite gotten out of the opal. You can see it there. It's actually easy to see when it's a bit out of focus. There we go. There it's all crispy and in focus, and you can see that dull patch there in the left corner. Left bottom corner. So there you can see that there's been a little bit of a whoopsie. Something hasn't gone quite right in the gluing. Either that piece of opal got worn too thin, but I think what it is a little bit of air caught in within the glue. And that can happen. Now I could pull this triplet apart and put it back together, but see, you can see here, so the oxide, the black oxide kind of epoxy glue, well, the UV cured glue that they've got, has not been applied perfectly. So there's lots of inconsistencies around it. And you can see here from side on that this is actually not obsidian, it's probably the same material as what's on top. So even the backing doesn't have to be black. It can just be a glass as well, and then the black comes from the painting, well, the dyeing of the paint. Well, the dyeing of the painted glue that's used to seal the two together. I should double check with this other one. I think this other one, yeah, see, this is a bit unusual. So this one is looking like, oh no, this one's still painted. You can see that it's been painted all over with the glue. It's actually a bit of sweat, it's very hot in here. But this one looks like it's also been painted, and you can see the paint is running up along the edges and everything. So that's quite interesting. There you go, there's a side-on shot. So, why do we do triplets? It's pretty simple. They're very cheap. The amount of opal in this, in a 2-carat triplet, is very little. Just imagine that wafer-thin piece of opal. This is a 10x8mm. It's a tiny bit of opal, but it shows so much nice colour that I guess it had to be done. You can't just throw that out and waste it away. So I'm kind of trying to warm up to the idea of triplets. It's much sturdier than a normal opal, but it doesn't look as good. It looks nowhere near as good as what this would look on a natural opal. The colour play is kind of magnified. It looks a little bit strange like that. And the other thing is that these, though they're more durable to scratches and impact, they are really prone to falling apart if you expose them to too much moisture or water. So if you wear these in the shower, like if I set this in an earring and you wear it in the shower, the water can actually penetrate into the glue, and those glue layers, these layers will literally just pull apart from each other, and then you'll have to re-glue it all back together again. So it's not the best, but at the same time you can get really great looking jewelry for very low cost. I could set these into a pair of earrings and sell the earrings for well under $100. Set with some nice sterling silver claws, they would still look amazing, but they would be triplets. So yeah, you can buy these for less than 10% of a solid black opal of a similar equivalent. So yeah, I hope I helped out today. Triplets are a funny thing. I'm not a huge fan, like I said. I'm much more a fan of the solids, and I can see a good use for doublets. Sometimes there's some great crystal material that just doesn't get a good enough finish on it to be left as is and set. But if you chuck a little bit of obsidian on the back, a little bit of black obsidian, or maybe a bit of ironstone, it transforms into a hell of a gem. So I still am a pretty big fan of doublets and solids, but triplets are just not really my thing. I mean, these are two amazing looking triplets, minus the imperfection in this one over here. In that bottom corner, you can see that hazy patch. But yeah, even with triplets that look this good, I'm still not a huge fan. It's just not my thing. As a carver, I would not really bother making the triplets. I mean, I'll do it just to show you guys the process of it, and I don't know, maybe you guys will get a lot of fun out of making triplets. Maybe you can get a lot of material that's suitable for tripleting, but it's not something that I am a huge fan of. So I will make a video on the making of triplets, but it's not something that I will want to spend a lot of time on. So I just wanted to make this video just so that people could actually have a good look at triplets and get a strong understanding of what they are and identify within a few seconds if they've got a piece in their hands whether it's a triplet or not. So that's the main goal of the video. So I hope that helps out, and I will see you in the next video. I'll be carving a small piece of Kupiti. More details to come in the next video, so stay tuned and I'll see you then.